The ballroom lights blazed as Donald Trump and Melania entered the press conference. Cameras snapped, microphones leaned forward, and hushed voices buzzed like static through the packed room. It wasn't just another media event, there was a sharpness in the air, a hunger. Reporters had been waiting for weeks, polishing their questions like weapons. Some wanted answers. Others wanted headlines. A few came looking for blood. Trump tugged at his red tie and glanced at Melania. She gave him a small nod, steady and quiet, her calmness radiating beside him. He drew strength from it. The moderator welcomed them, but before Trump could begin, a voice rang from the back. "Mr. Trump, do you really think people still take you seriously?" Laughter rippled through the room. Melania's gaze swept the crowd, not angry, just patient. She had seen this before. Questions meant less to uncover truth than to provoke shame. Trump smirked, leaned into the microphone. "We'll get to questions. But first, I have something to say." The laughter dimmed. The room sensed something unexpected. A second reporter cut in, sharper than the first. "Isn't it embarrassing that your speeches are mocked more than they're respected?" Chuckles followed. The man leaned back, satisfied. Trump repeated the word slowly. "Embarrassing? I'll tell you what's embarrassing. When we forget that the people who stand at this podium or sit in your seats are human beings first." Beside him, Melania placed her hand lightly on the table. Her voice, soft yet steady, carried her accent like music. "Mockery says more about the one who mocks than the one who is mocked. When I first came to this country, people laughed at my accent. They asked if I even understood English. But I kept learning. I kept trying. Their laughter did not stop me. The snickers faded." The mocking reporter shifted uneasily. He hadn't expected the spotlight to turn not with anger, but with Truth Dot in the corner. A young journalist named Sarah lowered her pen. She had come for spectacle. Instead, something in Melania's words reminded her of her immigrant grandmother, once ridiculed for broken English. Her heart tightened. Then another voice, crueler, cut across the silence. "Mr. Trump, do you ever wonder if people show up just to laugh at you?" Nervous laughter flared in the back row. A cluster of interns giggled, unsure. Following the older reporter's lead, Trump leaned forward, eyes narrowing, then smiled. "Do I wonder if people laugh? Of course they laugh. But here's the truth. You can laugh at someone, or you can learn from them. And sometimes, the people you laugh at teach the greatest lessons." Melania added gently, "I know what it feels like to be laughed at. But if you choose kindness instead of cruelty, you never regret it." The intern's laughter died. One of them, Daniel, flushed red. He remembered mocking his younger sister's dream of becoming a singer. For the first time, he wondered if he had been the cruel one. From the middle row, a timid hand lifted. A young journalism student, Emily, notebook trembling, asked quietly, "Mr. Trump, how do you keep going when people make fun of you every day?" The room turned toward her. Trump's tone softened. "That's a good question. The answer is simple. You remember why you started. If you know your purpose, mockery becomes background noise." Melania leaned closer to the microphone. "When you believe in something, you don't stop because others laugh. Courage is always remembered more than cruelty." She had expected confrontation, not kindness. For her, the moment was personal. Then a grizzled reporter, voice sharp with skepticism, fired another shot. "Mr. Trump, people say, you're out of touch with reality. Maybe you don't even know what real America is anymore." Trump didn't flinch. He crossed his arms, steady. "I know America very well. I've seen farmers fight drought. Soldiers come home with scars. Families working 3 jobs just to survive. If that's not reality, then tell me what is." Melania's voice followed, firm yet tender. "Reality isn't in headlines. Reality is the single mother raising children, the old man who still works because he must, the young girl who dares to dream. That is America." The reporter lowered his eyes. He hadn't expected compassion wrapped in strength. For the first time, the questions in the room shifted. They no longer felt like daggers. They felt like windows dot from the corner, Sarah whispered to herself. "This isn't what I expected." She had prepared to provoke. Instead, she thought of her grandmother's words. "You don't raise yourself higher by tearing others down." Trump noticed her hesitation. "You look like you have something to say," he said. Pointing, caught off guard, Sarah's voice cracked, but she managed, Do you really believe kindness can change how people see you, even if they refuse to listen? Trump smiled. Yes, because kindness isn't about them, it's about you. When you choose it, you already win. Sarah's chest tightened. She hadn't expected her own doubts to be answered so plainly. From the side of the room, a frail hand lifted. A retired soldier in a worn uniform jacket stood. I fought for this country. I've been mocked, too called, old, useless, forgotten. But I'll tell you something. Respect isn't handed out. It's earned in moments like this. The room stilled. His words were not a question, but a testimony. Trump nodded deeply. Thank you for your service, and thank you for reminding us that dignity never fades, not with age, not with words. Melania rose slightly, hand over her heart. You are not forgotten. Your voice matters here. The veteran's eyes glistened. Silence hung heavy until one pair of hands clapped. It was Emily, trembling but firm. Others joined, slowly at first, then stronger. Not all, but enough. The applause wasn't for politics. It was for truth. Trump glanced at Melania. She smiled softly. Sometimes, she whispered, the room changes before the people realize it. The mocking energy had dissolved. Respect, unexpected and undeniable, had taken its place. Even the grizzled reporter who had challenged Trump earlier cleared his throat. His voice was quieter now. I may have been unfair. My father was a farmer, worked until his hands bled. Hearing you speak reminded me of him. I shouldn't have mocked. This time, no one laughed. No one smirked. The room was silent, not with tension, but with awe. Trump gave a small nod. It takes strength to admit that. Thank you. Melania leaned in gently. Words can hurt, but they can also heal. Today, you chose healing. For the first time, the press conference didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a conversation. Sarah sat silently, her heart heavy. She had come ready to sharpen her questions, ready to play the same game as everyone else. But now, all she could think of was her grandmother, the woman who arrived in America with nothing but hope, who had endured ridicule for her accent and yet built a life of love and courage. Sarah whispered to herself, maybe I've been asking the wrong questions. She lifted her notebook and wrote, not a headline, but a reflection. Kindness disarms mockery faster than anger ever could. A younger reporter, frustrated, tried to wrestle back control. So, Mr. Trump, are you saying mockery doesn't bother you? That's impossible. You've been insulted for years. Trump leaned forward, steady. Of course it bothers me. I'm human. But here's the difference. I don't let it define me. Mockery is temporary. What you do in response is permanent. Melania's voice followed, calm and firm. We all feel pain. But dignity comes when you refuse to answer cruelty with cruelty. The reporter faltered. His attempt to provoke met not with fire, but with wisdom. The room leaned in closer then. To everyone's surprise, Melania spoke again longer than usual. Her accent carried not Polish, but raw honesty. When I was a young girl, I walked into a room where no one believed in me. They laughed because I was different. But I did not let their laughter stop me. If I had believed them, I would not be standing here today. Her voice trembled slightly, not from weakness, but from truth. Reporters expecting a politician's rehearsed answer instead glimpsed something real. Trump looked at her proudly. That's why we're here today. Not because we escaped mockery, but because we refused to let it stop us. The atmosphere in the room shifted completely. Pens scratched across notebooks, but no longer with sarcasm. One reporter whispered under his breath, "This isn't a press conference. This is a reminder of who we're supposed to be." Trump adjusted his tie and said, "You all came here for answers. Maybe the real answer is this. Respect lasts longer than ridicule, and America needs more of that." Silence followed, but it wasn't hostile anymore. Emily, the young student, felt her throat tighten. She had been bullied in school for stuttering. Her classmates' laughter still etched in her memory. Now, hearing Melania speak of mockery and courage, she felt seen. Tears dotted her notebook. She wasn't ashamed. She was relieved. "Maybe I can be brave too," she whispered. The younger reporter who had tried to provoke earlier spoke again, this time softly. "Maybe the real story isn't about politics. Maybe it's about resilience." Trump smiled faintly. "Now you're getting it." Melania nodded. Resilience isn't about winning or losing. It's about standing up when others want you to fall. For the first time, the room wasn't adversarial. It was united. The old veteran rose once more, his faded jacket catching the lights. I came here thinking this would be just another political show, but I see now it's about respect. And respect is something we owe each other, no matter what side we're on. He raised his hand in salute. It wasn't just for Trump and Melania, it was for the entire room. No one laughed. Reporters stood in silence, honoring the weight of his words. What began as a spectacle of mockery had transformed into something else. The cameras kept rolling. But the story unfolding wasn't about conflict. It was about humanity. Trump and Melania hadn't silenced the room with anger. They had changed it with truth. Sarah raised her hand again, steadier now. Mr. Trump, Mrs. Trump, if you could give one message to everyone watching, what would it be? Trump leaned in, simple. Don't let the laughter of others stop your journey. Melania added softly, and never forget, kindness is stronger than mockery. Always. Sarah wrote it carefully. For her, this wasn't a headline. It was a lesson. The moderator closed the conference. But before leaving, Trump looked out over the room. You all came expecting one story. Maybe the real story is this. People change when they listen, not when they mock. Melania smiled warmly, and sometimes a room changes. Not because of anger, but because of love, heavy and luminous. When the conference ended, Sarah stayed behind. She approached Melania quietly. My grandmother was mocked for her accent too. She raised me to believe in kindness. Hearing you today, it felt like hearing her voice again. Melania's eyes softened. She placed a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. Then honor her by carrying that kindness forward. Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. She realized the twist of the day wasn't political, it was personal. Everyone who had come expecting spectacle walked away with something greater. A reminder that compassion can change not only a room, but lives. And when the cameras shut off, the story that remained wasn't about mockery. It was about transformation.